Is The Chris Heasley Show, coming to you from Radio DeBang.
The Chris Heasley Radio Show, and we are in an incredible time in the city of Houston. For the greater part of a decade, the Texas Democrats have had a firm hold on greater Houston politics, without question. And from that position, they have driven our city into the ground. It's a bottomless pit. Our budgets are way out of balance. Our debt's growing. The state of the city is lawlessness. It's dirty. It's not a good time for our great city of Houston, but the phoenix does rise from the ashes, and we're in an amazing time where just 10 years ago, you could write off the Republicans. They were not worthy adversaries. They were not credible. That is changing today, here and now. And in today's world, the Republicans are reloading and rebuilding. And they are now staring down the Texas Democrats and eyeing a victory in greater Houston. It's an amazing time. At the same time, the Texas Democrats know how to fight, and they work hard, and they are well entrenched. And they are a wounded animal, but they are still a machine. So we have our work cut out for us. But the question for the people is, do we want more of the same? Do we want more of the same lawlessness with this absurd bail reform? Do we want more of the same of this unaccounted for spending? Or do we want to change? That's a question for the voters to decide. We're going to go over all of that today for Greater Houston, and we have two men that are very well qualified to give us a good education on the state of Greater Houston today. And in the studio today, we have Orlando Sanchez, who is in a fierce primary runoff for the Republican candidacy for Harris County judge. And the judge is the chief executive for the county. It's a very prominent position, and Orlando's giving it all he's got. Orlando, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing well.
Good.
It's great to see you, and thank you for making time. It's a very critical time for Orlando and Alex, who I will introduce next. It's a critical time for these men because they are in the crunch for their runoff campaign, so we appreciate them being here. We have Alex Hale, who is a Republican congressional candidate, primary candidate for Congressional District 7, where he will stare down the toxic Democrat, the toxic leftist, Lizzie Fletcher. Alex, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well. Great to be here.
Alex is one of the most interesting young men that I know. His background is incredible. He has for being such a young man, he has an incredibly strong background in oil and gas. And of course, what they will say, they're going to come at him for his youth. But make this interview today the test. And you tell me if there's anyone who's more astute on the topics affecting our great city. He's the second time on the show, and he informed us in a well-rounded manner about a number of things regarding the greater Houston area. So I think this is going to be a great show. I appreciate you coming on, Alex.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
We're going to jump right into it. Orlando, appreciate your time. I want you, I no longer enjoy going downtown. I love downtown Houston. It's dear to my heart. It is the center of our region. Only when your core is strong can the region be strong. I will ask the audience, do you think our city is doing well with the smells and the pollution and the homelessness? I don't consider it a good state of the city, but I want to ask Orlando. Orlando, give us a state of downtown Houston today.
Well, look, downtown has a lot of great assets. A lot of downtown started coming back under the administration of Bill White when they developed Discovery Green, and that's sort of launched the redevelopment of what was historically the second ward of Houston. So there are some positives. But, the thing is, Chris, they have been scraping money out of the general fund of the city of Houston for decades. It started with this idea called tax increment reinvestment zones. And the idea behind the zones were to use tax incentives to reimburse developers that would come into what was called blighted areas and lay the infrastructure, beautify it, attract other developers, raise the tax base, and that would pay the debt off for the lights, the landscaping, all the beautification. Well, the city went crazy and they developed 27 of them. So all of these
27 zones.
27 tax increment reinvestment zones, among them, and no one would argue that the Galleria is a blighted community, nor Memorial City. But we gave them a tax increment reinvestment zone. So they're scraping off money out of the general fund, and it's strapping the city council and the mayor to the point now that their debt service and payroll, their outlays is outstripping the revenue they're getting from property taxes, fees, and sales taxes. And that's the problem with the city of Houston.
So they made the choice to forego necessary revenues. And now when they need those revenues because the costs must be met, the revenues aren't there because they took an idea that might have been good for a particular area that was blighted and they spread it across the whole area. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So give you an example. Back in the late 80s, there was a gentleman out here on the west side of the Galleria. His name was Robert Silvers. He was a developer. And just west of the Galleria, just west of Post Oak, was a horrible community of shanty houses that were mostly rental houses. I mean, no one would even go near there. That became the earliest tax increment reinvestment zone. And it worked. They beautified the infrastructure. They put lights up. And then developers came in and started building new homes. And so that's worked. That's how it's supposed to work. Midtown was drug infested, homeless, drug sales, prostitution, crime. That one worked real well too. But then everybody saw, hey, we can avail ourselves of the benefits of a tax increment reinvestment zone, get the public to pay for our infrastructure investment, and we make money by developing the buildings. And so the Galleria came up, and then Memorial City and other, I call them enclaves of opulence. And mayors have tried to get us out of that. In fact, the legislature tried to help the city of Houston get them out of these tax increment reinvestment zones. But what's happened, Chris, is over the years, they have annexed and expanded their debt. So they extend their life. So they're originally, the pro formas were for 30 years. Well, we're coming up on 30 years. But these tax increment zones are increasing more debt, issuing more bond, so they're extending their life. And it's really hurting the city of Houston to the point that they can't meet payroll for critical services like first responders.
It's like refinancing debt. That's what you're telling me?
Well, no, refinancing debt
It's like
happened.
that, I mean. It's
No,
that
it's
they're extending it.
No, when they annex, for example, the Galleria annexed a portion of Memorial Park. So they issue new debt for 30 more years for improvements that they're making out there. So some of these tax increment reinvestment zones are growing like their own little city, their own little government. And Bill King at the Baker Institute has written about the dangers of it. Former Mayor Bill White tried to stop them. The legislature has tried to slow them down.
Who's doing it when you say stop them?
Well,
the city council or what?
Yeah, the city.
Or is it the commissioner's court?
They don't participate. This is the good thing. Back when these tax increment reinvestment zones, so they work well when all of the taxing agencies participate. So if the city of Houston, HISD, Harris County, Flood Control District, Hospital District all say we're going to abate our taxes, well, in other words, you will get the increment, then it's really high cotton for them. But the county didn't participate, so kudos to the county. But remember that the county historically has been fiscally well run by conservatives. Post 2018, when the Democrats took over, is when the county's deficits started growing, when our indebted bond liability started to increase. So we can see the difference in a short 8 years with Lena Hidalgo and Rodney Ellis at the helm.
Sounds like a financial train wreck.
It can be. And just to give you a historical perspective, a lot of folks are too young. But if you're as old as I am, you remember that in 1975, New York City filed bankruptcy. And they asked Gerald Ford for help. And Gerald Ford said, you brought this on yourself with the high salaries you're giving the unions. Cook County, Illinois, which is one of the largest counties in the United States, is $40 billion with a B in debt. What guarantees that debt? The property taxes. So when governments
People's homes.
correct, and businesses. So when government issues debt, which is using the credit card, basically, you go to Wall Street and you borrow money. What the collateral that guarantees that debt is your business personal property and your real property, your home. So the more debt that they take on, the more pressure homeowners and businesses feel for tax increases, because you have to preserve your FICO score. Government gets a FICO score. There's 3 rating agencies in Wall Street that rate the quality of municipal and government debt. And if you don't keep your FICO score up, which they rate them, AAA, A plus, A plus, A minus, they have a big scale. As your credit rating goes down, your debt service increases. When your debt service increases, you have to raise your property taxes. So you see what I'm saying? It's a death spiral.
Cycle.
And so, you think Cook County's bad? Los Angeles County is $70 billion in debt on general obligation guaranteed by property taxpayers. There's 2 types of bonds that are issued by government. One's called a GO bond, general obligation bond, guaranteed by our homes and businesses. And then there's revenue bonds. We don't guarantee those. Revenue bonds, for example, are airports or arenas that are guaranteed by another stream of revenue. So, what we need to do as a government is lower our debt, preserve our credit rating, and make sure that doesn't put pressure on the government to increase taxes to satisfy the debt.
Who are the creditors?
Bankers, big banks, Citibank, Chase, Wall Street investment companies that. So the city of Houston or Harris County will issue debt, and Charles Schwab, for example, will broker essentially that paper to investors around the country. And as you know, municipal debt is attractive to investors because it's tax-free. So that's a mechanism to make sure that we continue to buy municipal government debt.
Okay. You're running for one of the most prominent positions in Greater Houston. You'll play you would be playing a transformational role potentially in this position. How do you get us out of this? Well, first of all, I got 2 questions. What is the debt for Harris County as compared to like LA County? And then my second question is, how do we dig out of this thing? How would you do that?
Well, when I was county treasurer, we were in the black every year. We finished with money in the bank. For nearly 2 decades, under Republican leadership, the tax rate was never raised. Yes, it is true that the assessments of the home values did go up, which triggered an increase in taxes, but the tax rate never went up. By comparison, now our debt has grown. We're not paying it down like we were. But in the last 8 years, the county fathers and mothers have raised property taxes 16%. On top of that, your assessments...
When you say county fathers and mothers, who are you referring to?
Commissioner's Court.
That's what I thought. Mm-hmm.
And on top of the tax rate increase, you're also now seeing the appraisals going up. So because mortgage interest rates are dropping. So when there's more people wanting to buy a house than an inventory, the price of a house goes up. So we're getting hammered. And let me just say this. I hear the national politicians talk about affordability. And think about that. Congress really doesn't affect our affordability. If you look at this administration, they have cut income tax for the average person dramatically this year. They're giving these savings initiatives for young people. It's not Congress's tax through the IRS that's killing us. What's killing us is local government. For example, most Texans right now pay more in insurance and property taxes than they do in principal and interest on their mortgage.
We're on a short schedule. I mean, I could go on and on about this.
Yeah, we could.
I want to jump to one topic that you brought up in the conference room before we got started here. And essentially what you're telling me is the NFL is holding the county hostage at this point. Can you explain that to me?
Well, I'm not saying the NFL is holding Harris County. What I said was that local governments, and you brought it up in our conversation, that local governments are getting away from the ABCs of government.
Right.
The ABCs of government, the first priority is to protect its citizens, provide clean water, remove the trash, respond to emergencies, create a fire department to put out a fire. Those are the basics of government. When government does that, stays focused to that, governments in the private sector thrive. But what happened is, many years ago, the NFL figured out that they could pit cities against cities. This happened in Houston, by the way, in the 1990s, when Bud Adams was the owner of the Houston Oilers, and the Oilers were playing in the Astrodome. And Bud Adams came to the county, which is the owner of the facility, and said, I want you to invest $120 million and put in new scoreboards and new seats and new suites. And the county and the city said, we don't think so. So what happened? Bud Adams and the Houston Oilers moved to a smaller market, Tennessee. Then Houston didn't have a team for a while. But so what happens is the NFL, and it's not just the NFL, it's the NBA and the Major League Baseball. They sort of threaten cities that if you don't build our sports facilities, we're going to move. And that's great. I know I love sports, but I don't think government needs to be in the sports business. And can we help? Absolutely. We can do some infrastructure work and maybe do some beneficial bond issues that they would be responsible for. But it gets to the point where we're disproportionately investing too much of our resources into sports facilities and ignoring the needs of the taxpayers. Remember, the sports facilities, every city in America is paid for by a taxpayer, whether you believe it or not. For example, in Houston, Harris County Sports Authority's revenue comes from automobile rentals. So every time you rent a car, you'll see a tax for the Houston Harris County Sports Authority.
There should be a complete separation of athletics and state, in my opinion. Get back to the basics. What does the NFL want right now from Houston?
Well, as I understand, the NFL is claiming that NRG, soon to be Reliant Stadium again, is outdated. I mean, essentially, it's pretty new. We haven't even finished paying the mortgage that we issued for the construction of it. And I think they're asking for nearly $2 billion of investment from taxpayers to rehab soon-to-be Reliant Stadium. That's going to be a tall hurdle for this county. So we'll see what happens. But look, my job as a county judge, when I'm elected, is to rein in spending, refocus the county on protecting property through the flood control district, making sure that our first responders are well paid, getting control of the county jail, stop this craziness that's going on in the courts and the criminal courts where the judges aren't adjudicating cases. People want to know, why is the county jail so backed up? It's backed up because these judges aren't working hard to adjudicate, move the cases. Because once you try a defendant and they're convicted, they're swiftly moved to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the state penal system, where they belong. Instead, we're housing him in the county jail. That's costing us a lot of money. So let's focus on what the county needs to do. Let's preserve our credit rating. Let's stop issuing all this crazy debt. Like Harris County right now came up with a program called Uplift Harris County, where the county commissioners, through some department, get to pick like 1,000 or 1,200 families, and they just send them a check for $500 gratuitously from the taxpayers. Well, if that's not socialism, what is? Who decides who gets money? And so we've got to stop all this crazy business. We're now in the business. We've built the largest criminal defense law firm. We started off at $40 million just a few years ago under Democrat administration. Our county budget for the public defender's office now is approaching $150 million. And here's what I tell people all the time. You are now victimized like 4 times. If your car's broken into and your laptop is stolen, you're a victim. You have to replace the window. You have to replace your laptop. Then you have to pay for the criminal defense of the guy that did it. And then if the judge says, well, we're going to put an ankle monitor because the defendant is a repeat offender, guess who pays for the ankle monitor? You do. And on DWI cases, guess who pays for the breathalyzer on the steering column? You do. So you're paying all these things for the defendant, and your property is being stolen, and you have no recourse. It's upside down.
I want to be respectful of your time. I know you're on a tight schedule, and I want to thank you for coming in today. I want to wish you the best in this runoff, and I appreciate you making time for the show when you're in such a crunch time for your
Thank you,
campaign
Chris.
right now.
Appreciate you doing this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. With that being said, we'll take a quick moment here for the featured product, the featured product of the show, the X39 patch. There we go. The X39 patch is quite possibly the greatest medical technology ever produced for man. It is the X39 patch. It is a patch that you wear, and I got mine right here under my watch. It is a patch that you wear on your skin 12 hours a day. You put it on, you put it on 12 hours and take it off. And it's photolight therapy. It's not a transdermal patch. It's not putting an ointment or a lotion in your body. None of that. It's simply directing light into your body. And how it works is like this. Your body emits light. It's true, it does. Your body emits light. And what the patch does, it redirects the light back into your body, triggers what is known as the copper peptide, which is one of the most dominant peptides in the body. And it's a peptide that has a tremendous impact on aging. So it triggers the copper peptide that then awakens dormant stem cells. And stem cells are the essence of life, the essence of youth. So when you're a baby and you're born, you're overflowing with stem cells. They're everywhere. And with each passing decade, the stem cells go to sleep. They go dormant. And what this patch does, it simply awakens dormant stem cells. It's not a stem cell injection, that dark, gross technology that takes stem cells from an outside source and puts them in your body. It's not that. It awakens the stem cells that you were born with and brings your youth back to life. And the results are amazing. The clinical trials are done, the patents are in, and the technology has shown that with 6 months of wearing this patch, it reverses the age of your heart by up to 8 years. I'm going to say that again. It's age reversing. With 6 months of wearing the patch, the clinical trials have shown that it reverses the age of your heart by 8 years. It's not anti-aging. Anti-aging means that you still age. You just look a little bit better when you do. It's not that. It's age reversing. And so what it does is strengthens your internal organs, and then it extrapolates outward on the body in all different ways, the benefits in all different ways. For me, prior to the patch, I would be sleepy at the wheel. I'd fall asleep at red lights. I'd have to time out energy drinks. I'd have to time out power naps. All of that is gone in my life. I no longer need the naps in the midday. I no longer need the energy drinks. And I no longer fall asleep at the wheel. I don't even think about sleeping at the wheel. I drove from here to Baton Rouge, no problem. The other thing for me is that after 40, us men have that pressure on the bladder, and it makes us have to go to the bathroom all the time. And it's like a prison sentence. For me, it's gone. It's gone. Within 30 days, it's gone. It's the X39 patch. But the most important part is what it does for your appearance. And it's tremendous. You see, when you go to the store and you buy collagen, they source that from a farm animal. It comes from an outside source. What this patch does is it uses your existing collagen in your body and refreshes it. And it brings youth back to the face and to the appearance. It's the X39 patch. And to learn more about it, simply call or text 330-606-2304.
The Chris Heasley Show, coming to you from Radio DeBang.